So let's get started with reviewing the test cases, Anand, that you created yesterday. Let me start sharing my screen. Share screen. Right. Okay, so these were the test cases, Anand, that you created yesterday. I would say that this is a good attempt that you gave, but then there are more changes that you need to do in writing the test case.
Yes,
Okay, so you are following along with the requirement. So what you did probably is that you picked up, uh, you probably picked up one requirement and you created test cases on those, or was it like you picked up a number of requirements and created test cases on it?
so I have directly created the test case on basis on visiting on website.
Okay, so this is one single test case, right? It is for one requirement. Okay. Okay, there would be more things, Anand, that you have to still work on it. Hi, Shubham. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
So what you have done, Anand, you have tried ensure that the person who is coming on the website would feel secure, would see when they see the certificate being installed correctly on the website, they should feel that security. Okay, so what I would rather have done here first is, if you're talking about the security and the certificate, your test description should be talking about the same. Here from the test description, I would not be I would not know. I would not know whether you are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I saw this message flashing that my internet is unstable. Okay, so the test description should say something that is talking about the security and the validation of the certificate. Uh, इस केस के अंदर I don't think there is any need for a prerequisite. You already have the website up. You can leave it blank. So prerequisite could be avoided here. Inputs actions could be very short here. I would never recommend writing a test case having 12 steps in it. So the minimum number of steps that you can possibly write would be great. So if we are talking about again the certificate, then you can say click on this URL to open QAGENIC website, and you can say that here you can say that verify that the certificate is loaded, is installed on the website, and then in the expected, you say that the website that the user can safely access the website since since the certificate is installed correctly. ठीक है, उसके बाद में फिर actual result के अंदर then when you are executing the test case, then you can again see if the certificate is still there. You can say that the certificate is installed and user can use it. ठीक है, जब आप क्या करते हो ना आनंद, जब आप बहुत सारे स्टेप्स डाल देते हो एक ही टेस्ट केस के अंदर, दिस इज नोन एज नेस्टिंग ऑफ टेस्ट केसेस. ठीक है, so what happens is that with the nesting of test cases, when you're executing one test case, you would not be able to uh, execute one single requirement. Rather, you are actually executing multiple requirements in one single test case. You're testing multiple requirements in one test case. And for instance, if out of like 3 requirements that you have nested in one single test case, one requirement is working fine, the other 2 are not working fine, you would be confused. How should I, what should be the result of this test case? एक चल रहा है, 2 नहीं चल रहे हैं. Should I mark this test case as a pass? Should I mark it as a fail? तो उसलिए it is always good that you do not nest your test cases. हर individual feature के लिए individual test case लिखो. So you would not be confused कि अच्छा ये वाला feature अगर मेरा नहीं चल रहा है तो I'll keep it failed. ये चल रहा है तो ये पास है. Alright. But good attempt, Anand, since you're writing it for the first time. Good. और practice करना है इसको.
Yes.
Okay. Shubham, did you give it a try?
No sir, actually थोड़ा सा घर पे फंक्शन से इस वजह से मैं प्रिपेयर नहीं कर पाया उसे.
No problem. All right, so let's then get started with today's session. I started recording, right? Okay, it's recording to then cloud. All right. So our today's agenda on day 3 is how to find, report and track defects in an application to make the software a quality product. Okay, yesterday we talked about the test cases, how we create the test cases. Today we will be talking about how to find defects. So this is interrelated. So when you have created your test cases and once you have the application available, once you have the code available from the developer, you start executing your test cases. So on the execution of the test cases, whenever you have a failed test case, that is your first criteria through which you can start finding your defects. Wherever your expected is not matching with your actual result in the test case, you would say that this is a failed test case and you are going to log a defect for it. That is first criteria of finding a defect, how you can find a defect. Okay, the second is what we were even talking about yesterday is understanding the applications, understanding the application and then applying scenarios, end-to-end scenarios as an end user. So when you do that, you are actually going beyond executing the test cases and you are testing the application as an end user. And during doing that process, when you see that this is not actually working fine, or this could be a problem for the end user, that is your second criteria or second method through which you can find your test cases, find your defects. Okay. And then the third one, the last one is something that would come from your experience. So if you see if you see the categorization of the applications, like if we talk about the different domains these applications comes from, for example, if we talk about e-commerce, so on the e-commerce domain, we all know Amazon is one of those applications, Flipkart, Paytm, all of these, Paytm Mall rather. So these all are from the e-commerce domain. From the healthcare domain, you have a lot of applications which are providing you healthcare services, which are providing you to book the doctor, to book your lab test. So all of these would go down into the healthcare. From the travel domain, if you talk about, you have Make My Trip, Expedia, Ease My Trip, all of these would fall down into the travel domain. So when you start working in one particular domain, you have tested like 3 applications in one single domain, let's say e-commerce domain, the Amazon wala domain, you will get an experience of how applications on the e-commerce platform or the e-commerce domain works. So when you have this experience of testing 3 applications on the e-commerce domain, when you pick up or when you're assigned to the 4th application, you would rather not need to go through the complete requirements to understand what this application is, because you already have an experience from the previous applications that you have tested. So from that experience, how do you find defect is, यार जो Amazon का कार्ट था या फ्लिपकार्ट का जो कार्ट वाला फंक्शनैलिटी थी, that was the most problematic part in my earlier application. So let me directly go and start testing, start finding defects in this particular area which had problems earlier as well. So that is through your experience that you would rather not go feature 1, feature 2, feature 3. You would be directly jumping on feature 10, where you know from your experience that this is the most defect prone area, and let me start testing this area to find defects. So the third category, the third method of finding defects is your own experience that you would gain over a period of time. Right. So this is how you find defects: executing test cases, executing your scenarios or applying your scenarios, and then third comes from the experience. All right. So what actually is a defect? How do we define defect? The first thing that we know that we have been talking about since the last 2 days is deviation, any deviation from the requirement. If my requirement is not matching with my application, I know this is a defect. देखिए, क्लाइंट ने मेरे को बोला ये बनाने के लिए, हमने नहीं बनाया, वो डिफेक्ट है. Client would never accept that. So the second definition could be, it is a problem or an error that we have in the system. Okay, problem again could be for multiple reasons. The features are not integrated properly. Error could be the human error that the developers can make. There could be errors from the coding side of it. There could be parsing errors. There could be n number of errors because of, again, what leads us to is the deviation from the requirements. This is not how the client wanted the application to work, is what would tell us that this is a defect, this is a bug, this is something that we have to fix before we can go back to the client, say कि ये ठीक चल रहा है. Okay, so when we are testing an application, there can be n number of, or there can be all of these issue types that you see here on the screen. Right. So the first thing is the improvement. We have the requirements. Let's assume that the client has given us 100 requirements on which we are building the product and we're testing the product. Again, from your experience, you feel like that these 10 new features should also be added to this list of 100 features that the client has given to us. Okay, because these are new features, you are not going to log them as defects. Rather than you are going to suggest to the client that these new features, if added to the application, will enhance the quality of the application more. So you log these suggestions as improvements, not as defects. So an improvement or enhancement to an existing feature or task can be suggested by the QA folks. ठीक है, आपको लगता है कि 2 + 2 = 4 जो आ रहा है, so वो 2 + 2 = 4 तो आ गया, रिजल्ट दे दिया. Like in the YouTube, when you are done seeing one video, YouTube gives us some suggestions. So that could be a new added feature that could be suggested from the QA side of it. कि वीडियो तो देख लिया, 2 + 2 4 तो कर लिया, एक और नीचे सजेशन बॉक्स दे दो जहां पे आप क्लाइंट को, यूजर को ये बोल रहे हो कि आप मल्टीप्लिकेशन भी कर सकते हो, डिवीजन भी कर सकते हो, आप परसेंटेज भी निकाल सकते हो, if you want to try it. So that is a new feature that you probably may suggest, which you would be reporting in the defect tracking tool, which could be Jira, as an improvement. Here the task is an issue type which is majorly used by the developers. A small distinct piece of work that has to be done on an application. So developers, the dev lead would create a task for their team members, and then one task can again have subtasks under it. उसको और break down कर सकते हैं. New feature. A new feature is of a product which has not been developed. From the example that we were talking about, let's say we have 100 features. So all of these features are also a part of your defect tracking tool, which are captured in the tool itself, so that we know कि हम लोग कौन से features पे काम कर रहे हैं. So all of these features, all of these requirements, when they are put down into the defect tracking tool or in a project management tool, are categorized as new features. Okay, these are new features, new requirements that we are getting along. Bug, we already know, is a problem or an error. It is a defect that QA reports, that tells that the application is not working as per the requirements. And story is a terminology that comes in. Story and epic, both are these terminology that comes in from the agile side of it. So story is to track the functionality of features expressed as user goals. So if you see new feature and story, these both are tied up. The new feature would be the requirement, and how we are going to execute this requirement would be majorly guided by the story. So you can break down one new feature into multiple stories. Or if you are specifically working on the agile model, you may not even be using the new feature type. You would be only using the story as a issue type. And what epic is a very big user story. My example always for epic is Ramayana or Bharat or Mahabharata. These are epics, which when they were shooting, when they were making episodes of it, they were making episodes, so you can break it down as stories. So you cannot pick up the complete Ramayana का ग्रंथ उठा के आप सीधा सीधा उसका एपिसोड नहीं बना सकते. You have to break it down into smaller chunks, which are stories. Epic is a big story. Right. So these are some issue types that you would be encountering when you are going to use a defect tracking tool. Aapka, as a QA, the two major issue types that you would be encountering or using would be, one is the bug, like 90% of times you are going to log whatever you are going to log is as a bug. Or and then the 10% times you can also go in and log improvement. You can give your suggestions कि ये improve कर सकते हैं यहाँ पर, ये नया feature डाल सकते हैं, या इस existing feature के अंदर we can make this improvement to make this feature more robust. So majority of times these are the only two issue types that you would be tackling with, bug and improvement. Others are for other people. Task developer का हो गया, new feature epic, story epic, ये सारे scrum master के या आपके team leader के होते हैं. Any questions here?
No, sir.
Let's move forward then. Okay, so how do we compose a defect? Okay, जैसे what we saw yesterday, how we created test cases. This is how we are composing a defect. Once you have executed the test case, आपको पता चल गया कि हाँ अपन का actual is not matching with my expected. Now this is a defect for which I have to log a defect. Now, when you log a defect, there can be multiple ways of logging a defect. So when you log a defect, you have to be very sure that in the defect, the information that you are passing should be very, very accurate, so that the other person, the developer who is going to read my defect, should be able to understand that defect. He should not come to me कि अलग से आके नहीं पूछे डेवलपर कि यार ये आपने डिफेक्ट लॉक किया है, ये समझ नहीं आया मेरे को, can you help me understanding this defect? It should not happen that way, because for most of the times what would happen, you would be working with your clients who are not sitting in the same office. आप इंडिया में बैठे हो, clients could be sitting in the US, UK, any other area. So it would not be possible for the developers to come walk to your seat and understand the defect. So whenever you are logging a defect, it should be precise. It should have all the required information for the developer to understand it in the first go. Right? This is very, very important. Like for the test case, we had a unique ID. Similarly, for the defects, for the bugs, we have a unique bug ID. Okay, these bug IDs are automatically assigned by the tracking tool that you use. Achha, again, from the test cases side of it, we talked about two ways how you can create your test cases. One is an Excel sheet. One was the test case management tool. Okay, similarly, when we are logging defects, you can either report them through Excel sheets, or you can report them through a bug tracking tool. For test cases, I would still be okay creating test cases in an Excel sheet. But for defect tracking, if somebody tells me, my client tells me that we're going to use an Excel sheet to report our defects, I would not be the comfortable person on earth for that particular reason, for that particular project, for the reason that defects are something that you are going to create on a daily basis. That Excel sheet is going to like get filled up very quickly. And for you to find a defect in an Excel sheet would be really cumbersome. So for that reason, I would always suggest to the client, no, we should not use Excel sheet until unless it's like some hard and fast rule that their organization applies to it. I would always recommend them to use a defect tracking. So let's assume that we are using a defect tracking tool here, and Jira is the most popular defect tracking tool, which is used like in 90-95% of the projects out there. And with any of the defect tracking tool, the bug ID, when you start creating a defect, bug ID is something that would automatically get assigned to you. This is a unique ID which would go along with all the defects. In our example, we are taking a bug ID for an example, QTBA6. So this is one ID that was generated by Jira itself. Then you give a headline, a very short, crisp, one sentence headline to the defect that you are going to report. For example, here, what we are saying, login. So that is the feature where we are finding the defect. On the login, user is unable to log in using valid credentials. Okay, this is the same test case example that we were talking about in the test cases session. So what we are doing here, देखो headline लिखने के ना बड़े अलग-अलग तरीके हैं. You could have directly written user is unable to log in using valid credentials. But what I have did here is I have also put in the login feature here, and with a forward forward arrow, whatever which is the greater than symbol. ठीक है, इसको क्या बोलते हैं? This is known as a BCT, the bread crumb trail, BCT. So what happens is that abhi to we are just talking about one single feature here, login. When you log in into the application, let's say, then go to one page, then the second page, then the third page, and then you find the error. So in that case, your BCT will be login, page 1, page 2, page 3, feature 1, feature 2, and then you write your error. Ye error tha. So what happens with using this particular technique is, when the developer would read your headline, they probably would not even go to the remaining part of your defect. From the headline itself, you are giving them a navigation कि login पे से आप page 1 पे जाओ, page 2 पे जाओ, feature 1 पे जाओ, और वहां पे आपको ये defect मिलेगा. If your headline is so precise, so clear, your complete 100% work of reporting the defect has been completed in the headline itself. तो डेवलपर जाके सीधा उस फीचर में उठाएगा, उस फीचर को वो वहां पे जाके चेक करेगा कि क्या डिफेक्ट है. बट दिस इज नॉट अ 100% लाइक मैंडेटरी थिंग दैट आपको बीसीटी यूज करना ही करना है. इट इज वन ऑफ दोज गुड वेज टू हाउ यू कैन कंपोज अ डिफेक्ट. ठीक है, सो हेडलाइन इज हियर फॉर आवर एग्जांपल. हेडलाइन इज लॉगिन, user is unable to log in using valid credentials. Now we come to the description, wherein we are telling the environment. This is the environment of the tester's system. जो टेस्टर है उसने Windows 10 पे using this Chrome version टेस्टिंग करी है. So you can probably be reproducing the same defect on Firefox on a different Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer browser. So whatever you are using, or on a different OS altogether. So whatever environment you are working on, you have to put the complete environment here. Okay, why is this important? It may happen that Anand is working on Windows Chrome, Shubham is using a Mac. So for Anand, this defect is happening, but for Shubham, because he is not on Windows, he is on Mac, for Shubham, this defect may not be even happening. So that way we can do the root cause analysis on the environment side of it, कि कौन से environment पे आ रहा है, कौन से पे नहीं आ रहा है, या सारे environments पे ही आ रहा है. This is global. So that is why you have to first find a defect, then reproduce it on different browsers, different environments, then report it. Okay, you then now tell the preconditions similar to what we have seen in the test cases. आप बताते हो कि मेरी prerequisites या मेरी preconditions क्या है. Again, for this particular defect, we don't have any preconditions. You can leave it as none. Then you write the steps to reproduce. So you will tell, launch the URL, enter valid username, password, enter valid password, click on login button. ठीक है, same तरीका है जो अपन टेस्ट केसेस में फॉलो कर रहे थे. सेम तरीके से यहाँ पे अपन स्टेप्स लिखे. ठीक है, then here you write your actual result first. In the test cases, what we wrote while creating the test cases was the expected result. जब आप डिफेक्ट डाल रहे हो, you follow a sequence. आपने steps बताए पहले डेवलपर को कि ये स्टेप करो, ये स्टेप करो, ये स्टेप करो, and then you are going to tell the result कि ये steps करने के बाद में क्या result आ रहा है. So this is something that you are telling from the steps that you are executing on the application. जब ये एप्लीकेशन में आपने ये स्टेप्स करे, तो आप एक्चुअल रिजल्ट डेवलपर को बता रहे हो कि यूजर इज नॉट एबल टू लॉग इन इनटू द एप्लीकेशन यूजिंग वैलिड क्रेडेंशियल्स. Then you tell what my expected result was. What from the test cases, from the requirements, this is what I was expecting actually. The user should successfully log in into the application using valid credentials. Okay, because now this is a mismatch. That is the reason why we are logging this whole defect. Okay, ये understandable है?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the priority of this defect definitely is going to be high क्योंकि अपन valid username, valid password के साथ ही login नहीं कर पा रहे. Okay, so moving to the other, this is one single page, put into two different things. तो उसी ही defect के अंदर you would also see all of these following things. Whenever you log a defect, by default, the status of the defect is going to be going to go as new. ठीक है, आपने डिफेक्ट लॉक कर दिया, न्यू पे लॉग हुआ, उसके बाद में there would be a workflow which I would be discussing in the next slide, how the defect would then flow through. For any new defect, the status would automatically be will come as new. Then you would also see one field which is known as reporter. That would be the name of the tester. If Anand logged it from his ID, it would be Anand's name. It would be Shubham's name if he logs in from his ID. Then once you have logged the defect, it would be assigned to the developer. So assigning to a developer can also be automated in Jira. Automatically after defect log kiya, it can go to a developer. Or if you have like multiple developers, 4 or 5 developers in a team, तो ये manual assignment भी होता है कई बार, based upon the feature that you have logged the defect, the dev lead will then assign कि feature जो है ये developer कर रहा है तो इसको assign करते हैं. And from the QA perspective, you have to provide the evidence of the defect that you are logging. So this could be in the form of screenshots, screen recording. You can give the logs, कुछ भी हो सकता है ये, which is proving that जो defect आप डाल रहे हो, this defect is actually happening. And it also gives developers a very good view of what error you are trying to showcase to them. ठीक है, आप बोल रहे हो यूजर नेम, वैलिड यूजर नेम, पासवर्ड पे मेरे को एरर आ रहा है. सो इफ यू टेक अ स्क्रीनशॉट, उसको एरर पढ़ के, एरर मैसेज पढ़ के भी डेवलपर्स को बहुत कई बार समझ में आ जाता है कि अच्छा क्या एरर आ रहा है. ठीक है, सो वॉट एवर एविडेंस यू हैव फॉर द डिफेक्ट दैट यू आर लॉगिंग, ऑल्सो प्लीज अटैच दोज विद द डिफेक्ट. ठीक है, सो दीज अगेन आर सम ऑफ दोज मेजर फील्ड्स दैट यू वुड बी composing, logging when you are writing a defect. Okay, but again it would completely depend upon your project कि आपके प्रोजेक्ट के अंदर कौन कौन से फील्ड्स उन्होंने मैंडेटरी किए हुए हैं, कौन कौन से फील्ड्स हाइड किए हुए हैं, कौन से विजिबल हैं, फॉर विच यू हाउ यू आर गोइंग टू लॉग योर डिफेक्ट. ठीक है, एंड व्हेन यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट जीरा in itself, Jira is like very very highly configurable thing. तो अगर आपने प्रोजेक्ट 1 पे जीरा यूज किया, प्रोजेक्ट 2 पे जीरा यूज किया, उन दोनों के अंदर भी डिफरेंस आपको दिख सकता है, बिकॉज जीरा कैन बी कॉन्फ़िगर्ड लाइक एनीथिंग. बहुत सारे फील्ड्स ऐड कर सकते हो, हटा सकते हो, बहुत कुछ कर सकते हो जीरा के अंदर. ओके, ठीक है, तो नाउ वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट द स्टेटस. जब अपन ने डिफेक्ट लॉक किया, बाय डिफॉल्ट द स्टेटस दैट गोज इन इज न्यू. And let's see the different workflow that would then that the bug would traverse through in its whole life cycle. ठीक है, जब क्रिएट किया अपन ने यहाँ से इशू, यहाँ पर मेरे को मैं न्यू की जगह मैं आपको ओपन बोल रहा हूँ, ये एक न्यू स्टेट यहाँ पे रहेगा, न्यू के बाद में फिर ये ओपन होता है. ठीक है, अब ओपन हो गया. ठीक है, ओपन से हमको अब ये डिफेक्ट को ट्रैक करना है. इफ यू सी topic of our for day 3 for today is how do you track defects. So as a QA अपना काम ये नहीं है कि अपन ने डिफेक्ट फाइंड किया, अपन ने डिफेक्ट रिपोर्ट किया और छुट्टी कि भैया अपन ने डिफेक्ट ढूंढ दिया, अपन ने बता दिया डेवलपर को. आपका बहुत मेजर काम रहता है इन ट्रैकिंग द डिफेक्ट्स until it is closed or until there is a resolution or a satisfactory resolution that we have found for that defect. So on a given day, let's assume आप आज ऑफिस जाते हो, आपने टेस्टिंग करी, you log 8 defects, 10 defects in the day, Monday को. The next morning, Tuesday, when you go to the office, the first thing that you should be doing is going back in Jira and checking the status of all the 10 defects that you logged on Monday. And see कि अच्छा कहीं पे डेवलपर ने मेरे से कोई कमेंट तो नहीं पूछा है, कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन तो नहीं मांगी है, या डेवलपर ने किसी डिफेक्ट पे काम करना चालू ही नहीं किया है, तो आप पूछो डेवलपर को. So you should be doing this exercise until all the defects that you have reported are fixed. So that is tracking the defects. And for that tracking purpose, you have to make sure you have to understand this workflow very, very clearly. Again, this workflow may differ from project to project. ठीक है, अब अपना एम क्या है? अपन ने डिफेक्ट डाल दिया, अपन का एम है कि वो डिफेक्ट को क्लोज करना है. ठीक है, अपन को यहाँ से यहाँ तक आना है, बट देर आर मल्टीपल डिफरेंट स्टेटसेस दैट वी सी हियर. तो अपना पहला status that we see here is once you have created an issue, it would go in as open. So open say the developer will check this issue. The developer will once understand this issue, they can start the progress of fixing the defect and mark the status of the defect as in progress. Okay, in progress say it can very easily go in closed issue. Okay, this is one workflow. This is one workflow that it comes from open, in progress and closed. Okay, in progress say it can also go back to open because the developer don't want to make any progress right now. They can say कि ठीक है इसको open में डाल के रखते हैं. We will pick up this defect in like a month's time, in 2 months time. ठीक है, we don't want to make any progress here. So उस केस के अंदर ये वापस open state में डाल सकते हैं. ठीक है, अब open से the other option that I see is resolve issue. So the developer will directly go in. उसको पता है कि बहुत छोटा change है. I don't need to spend a lot of time. He would directly go in and mark it as resolved after making that very small change. Okay, once the defect is in resolved state, it can directly get closed. Or if the defect has to be verified, which we know in the QA terms, if we have to regress the defect, this resolved state will give you that ability. ठीक है, resolved से it would not go directly on the closed. Resolved state में जब आया ना तो QA का काम आया यहाँ पे to regress the defect. When you regress the defect, मतलब you are again going to execute the same steps जो आपने defect के अंदर report किए थे. ठीक है, now re-executing or regressing the same steps will give you two options. One, you would say कि हाँ अब ये steps execute करके application is now giving me the right expected behavior for which you will follow this particular flow and you will close the defect. ठीक है, the other option would be when you execute the same steps, you will say कि यार ये problem तो अभी भी हो रहा है जो पहले हो रहा था, या एक नई problem आनी चालू हो गई, but defect अभी बंद नहीं हुआ है, वो close नहीं हुआ है, issue resolve नहीं हुआ है मेरा. So in that case, what you would do is you would be reopening the issue. When you reopen the issue, you will be adding comments to the defect कि ये अभी भी हो रहा है, मेरे को ये वाला अब issue आ रहा है, and then you mark that defect as reopened. ठीक है, reopened के बाद में this again will go back to the developer. The developer will resolve the issue, again mark it as resolved. You again have to resolve you again have to regress the issue. Again the same two options, either it can go to closed or it can be reopened. ठीक है, अब reopened में आ गए, अब developer feels like this is going to be a big change in the code that they have to do. उस केस के अंदर they can even mark it as in progress. So they have started working on this defect. ठीक है, from the in progress again it can go to closed issue. So this is one very simple workflow I would say that you may see in your project. Again as I was saying, Jira के अंदर बहुत configuration का scope रहता है. So there can be more states, more options or more workflows that you may see in your project. Okay, so I would quickly show you one screenshot of how you see a defect when it is logged in Jira, and then we will jump on in Jira to write a defect there. Okay, or rather let's jump into Jira itself. You will see this same screen or same interface in Jira. Okay, so this is the Jira application that you see now. Once you have logged in, I have already logged in into Jira. And this is the interface. So you can go into projects, view all projects. If you do, you will see a lot of projects that are available in Jira. या आपको वही projects दिखेंगे जो आपको assigned है. So for our कोई भी उठा लेते हैं. These all are. Let's pick up this one. So this is an interface that you would see. The Kanban board is here. You will see all the different user stories that you are going to work upon. For this time, we are not bothered about the Kanban or the Scrum board. What I'm going to do is I'll go and hit the create button. Okay, so this create button, can I make it big? Okay, so this create button is giving us this particular page that we have to fill out, or this particular form in very simple terms. This form or this page is where we have to report our defect. Okay, the first thing is that since we are already in the project of our choice, और अपना जो test project है हम उसी में ही है, so you don't have to make any further changes here. But if you want to make changes, you are again presented with this drop down that आपको ये defect कौन से project में lock करना है, and then what is the issue type for which you are going to report this particular issue. So we talked about all of these in the slide. So here let's assume that we are going to log a defect. So अपन ने already bug ही selected था, अपन ने bug ही ले लिया है. Now we have the summary. Summary is the headline. ठीक है, तो अपन अच्छा, let's take the same example जो अपन कर ले रहे थे सोशल मीडिया, फेसबुक पे we created this test case where we wanted to post a photo on our Facebook wall which should be visible to the friend. Okay, let's assume that we have posted the photo successfully, but it is not visible to the friend. This is the issue. This is the defect that we are going to report here. Okay, it is going to be a little complex. तो अपन क्या बोलते हैं, एक तो since we are talking about Facebook, we can put it here like this and FB all. Or Shubham, you have any question?
No, sir.
I saw you go unmute, so just wondering. Okay, Facebook friends wall, photo posted by friend is not visible. Okay, so what I have done again is I have created a BCT. You understand this, na? BCT. This is bread crumb trail. आप लोगों के मतलब understanding point of view से I have just written this here. Okay, this is BCT. I'll remove this. This is not part of the headline. So this is the BCT. ये BCT अपन ने जो बनाया. ठीक है, what I am telling कि Facebook wall पे photo posted by friend is not visible. Okay, and then if you have components defined in your project, components are again the features like login हुआ, Facebook wall हुआ, adding a photo हुआ, वो सारे के सारे components होते हैं which have to be defined in the Jira project. For this particular project we don't have that defined, उसकी वजह से मेरे को यहाँ पे कोई component नहीं दिख रहा है. And then when you come down into the description, here you are going to completely define the defect that we are facing. First thing is that you are going to write the environment, Windows 10, Chrome. So you have to check the latest browser version, or you have to check the browser version that you're working on. I don't remember it. So for that timing, I'm putting in 92. Do we have any preconditions for this defect? Yes, we do have. इसके अंदर हम लोग क्या बोलेंगे कि friend has posted a photo on his Facebook wall, and then and this user is added as a friend to user one. ऐसे करते थोड़ा सा. Let's define it like this. User one has posted. This is user की जगह, it's better to put in like user 2 is added as a friend on user 1. This makes it more understandable. Okay, as in Word you have all these options to make your defect look good. Right, you can bold it, you can number it. Okay, what we have done till now is we have told about the environment that I'm using. I have also given the preconditions. Now comes the steps to reproduce. Steps to reproduce the defect that we are going to write now. Okay, the first thing is user one. Now these are steps, so you have to be very precise in writing these. Login as user one, post a photo on FB wall. Okay, log out as user1, login as user2. Are you guys able to follow along now? समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Login as user2, go to FB wall. ठीक है, अब यहाँ पे अपन बोलते हैं, अब फेसबुक वॉल पे इसको यहाँ पे जो है यहाँ एरर आएगा, तो एरर वुड बी पुट डाउन इनटू एक्चुअल रिजल्ट. ठीक है, अब यहाँ पे वी आर गोइंग टू डिफाइन दैट, वेरीफाई दैट फॉर यूजर 2 on his or her FB wall, the photo posted by user 1 is not visible. My expected was photo posted by user 1 should be visible to user 2 on his her Facebook wall. ठीक है, this was my expected. So I have written down the actual as well as the expected.
सर ये एक बार स्टेप्स टू रिप्रोड्यूस वापस समझा देना.
हाँ देखो, लॉगिन एज यूजर 1. ठीक है, लॉगिन, एक यूजर ने लॉगिन किया, उसने अपने फेसबुक वॉल पे जाके फोटो पोस्ट करी. ठीक है, हम क्या बोल रहे हैं अब कि ऑलरेडी जो यूजर 2 है वो एडेड है एज यूजर 1's फ्रेंड.
ओके.
ठीक है, तो अब यूजर 2 को अपन लॉग आउट करवा रहे हैं यहाँ पे, एंड देन लॉग इन कर रहे हैं हम एज यूजर 2. अब यूजर 2 अपने फेसबुक वॉल पे जाता है. ठीक है, अब यहाँ पे इशू क्या उसको मिल रहा है, द एक्चुअल रिजल्ट जो उसको दिख रहा है एप्लीकेशन पे इज दैट user 2 on his Facebook wall, for user 2 on his Facebook wall, the photo posted by user 1 is not visible. जो इसने यहाँ पर डाली थी फोटो वो उसको user 2 को नहीं दिख रही है. You don't have to be very मतलब you see here Shubham, what we're trying to do is I'm showing you how you log a defect in Jira. ठीक है, ये डिफेक्ट के ऊपर इतना ध्यान मत दो आप, you see the process that we are following. ये डिफेक्ट will डिफेक्ट वुड वेरी. आप एक दिन में 10 डिफेक्ट डालोगे, हर डिफेक्ट डिफरेंट होगा. हियर आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू शो यू कि आप डिफेक्ट कैसे लॉक करते हो. ठीक है, एंड सिंस आई हैव लॉग्ड इन एज QAGENIC टेक्नोलॉजी, सो दैट इज बाय डिफॉल्ट इट इज पिकिंग अप माय नेम. अच्छा रुको रुको, लेट्स गो टू द डिस्क्रिप्शन. आई गॉट लिटिल डेविएटेड. डिस्क्रिप्शन के अंदर अपन ने एनवायरनमेंट डाल दिया, प्री कंडीशन डाल दिया, स्टेप्स टू रिप्रोड्यूस डाल दिया, एक्चुअल रिजल्ट डाल दिया, एक्सपेक्टेड डाल दिया. ठीक है, अब इसके अंदर वन थिंग दैट यू आल्सो शुड बी डूइंग इज एडिंग योर स्क्रीनशॉट्स. अपने केस के अंदर अभी अपने पास में कोई स्क्रीनशॉट नहीं है, वी हैव जस्ट assumed that this is a defect, but when you attach your screenshots here, one good thing is to also add a note here, please refer to the added screenshots. ठीक है, एंड इफ यू हैव द नेम, प्रॉपर नेम, तो आप वो नेम भी डाल सकते हो. ये करने से मतलब दिस इज समथिंग अगेन दैट इज नॉट 100% मैंडेटरी, बट ये करने से व्हेन द डेवलपर इज रीडिंग थ्रू द डिस्क्रिप्शन, ही वुड नॉट बी लेफ्ट विद अ चांस टू मिस द स्क्रीनशॉट दैट यू हैव अटैच्ड. आप यहाँ पर नोट डाल दोगे, वो मतलब इट वुड बी लाइक फॉर श्योर वो डेवलपर जाके वो आपका स्क्रीनशॉट देख लेगा. ठीक है, so moving ahead, then you say Jira would automatically pick up the reporter through which you have logged in into Jira, and again there could be fixed versions. Fixed versions would be कि आपने डिफेक्ट लॉग किया एक पर्टिकुलर बिल्ड के अंदर. बिल्ड इज अगेन the numbering that the developers give to the code that they are writing. जो पहला दिन उन्होंने कोड किया फॉर एग्जांपल, तो उसको वो बोलेंगे ये बिल्ड 1 है. सेकंड डे पे जो कोड किया उसको बिल्ड 2 बोल देंगे, BUILD, बिल्ड. कोड बिल्ड्स होती हैं ये. आपको मैं बहुत रॉ एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ. सो आपने डिफेक्ट जब लॉग किया, इट इज बिल्ड 1, डे 1 पे बिल्ड 1 है जैसे, और डेवलपर ने जब फिक्स किया उसको चेंज करने, कोड में चेंजेस करने की वजह से उसने एक नया बिल्ड आपको बना कर दिया विच इज बिल्ड 2. तो ये फिक्स वर्जन ये होता है कि द डेवलपर विल सिलेक्ट कि कौन से बिल्ड के अंदर उसने ये डिफेक्ट को फिक्स किया है. सो सिंस अगेन दिस इज नॉट डिफाइंड हियर, That is the reason why we don't see any builds, any fixed versions here. Priority, highest, lowest, highest, high, medium is already there, low, lowest. By default इसने medium उठा लिया है. But as a tester, you have to decide कि जो defect आप log कर रहे हो उसकी priority आप क्या set करोगे. ठीक है, तो इट कुड बी हाईएस्ट बोलेगा. हाईएस्ट बोलने का मतलब ये है कि ये फंक्शनैलिटी की वजह से आपकी सारी की सारी एप्लीकेशन ब्लॉक्ड है. So it is like critical. Developers have to go in and fix these or this highest priority defect first. Okay. Similarly, high would say कि हाँ, this functionality is getting broken, but it is not hampering other application functionalities. So we can still continue testing, or the user can still move ahead. Medium is like medium. Okay. Low and lowest is low is कि कुछ issues आ रहे हैं, but these are not very alarming. We can still live with these issues. Lowest are जो cosmetic issues अपन बोलते हैं, the UI issues. कहीं पे आपको छोटा सा आपको ये दिखता है यार, ये create issue के बाद में कहीं नीचे underline आ गया. अभी I don't see any other issue here. या आपका ये ऐसे विंडो पे आपका कहीं टेक्स्ट लिखा हुआ होता है, जैसे ये टेक्स्ट अपन लिख रहे हैं यहाँ पे, and it does not get wrapped, वो आगे चलना पड़ा है. So which is not breaking the functionality, UI में देखने में issue है, which is okay. So you put it normally into the lowest priority. Okay, so this is something that you would again learn from your experience. Yeah, if there is a defined priority guide for your project, you would be then following that. So this particular, I would say this is a high. It is not breaking the functionality. It is a high priority issue. Then you can give labels to your defect that you are writing. So these labels would actually help you in searching for your defect. It would only help you. However, you will get a unique ID when we create this defect. You can use that unique ID to search your defect. Yeah, from my experience, I hardly have used adding labels to any of the defects that I reported. Okay, original estimate is the estimated amount of work that the developer will have to do in fixing this particular defect. कभी-कभी आपका प्रोजेक्ट आपकी प्रोजेक्ट की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है that tells the developers, that tells the testers to put in their estimates. But again, this is all totally project to project requirement, not a mandatory thing. This is not a mandatory field. अगर आपका प्रोजेक्ट बोलता है तो आप डालते हो. Okay, here you have the environment. So this what we have done here in the description, this environment you can even put down. You can even put down this environment here. Okay, so there are segregated sections. The environment ये था, description ये है. Okay, attachments I already talked about. You can go in, take a screenshot and attach your screenshot here for the defect that you have. So screenshot could be one attachment. Screen recording could be another thing. You can have crash logs also attached here. अच्छा, when how do you decide कि आज स्क्रीनशॉट डालें, इस वाले डिफेक्ट में स्क्रीनशॉट डालेंगे, इसमें स्क्रीन रिकॉर्डिंग डालेंगे? उसका एक बड़ा सिंपल एग्जांपल है for the very obvious defects where you are seeing an error on the page, you take a screenshot. Okay, you don't need a screen recording. In cases when there are multiple steps involved, आपने login किया, आप page 1 पे गए, page 2 पे गए, feature 1 में गए, feature 2 में गए, feature 3 में गए. There is a sequence that you have to follow, and then you see this defect happening. In those cases, it is always recommended that you do a screen recording. ठीक है, आप सीधा जाके feature 3 का फोटो खींच के स्क्रीनशॉट लेके आप डाल दोगे, it would not be that much descriptive as compared to your screen recording in that case. एक पूरा end to end जहाँ सिनेरियो आप दिखा रहे हो, end to end flow आप जहाँ दिखा रहे हो, there it is recommended that you attach a screen recording. And whenever you are putting a screenshot, it is always recommended कि screenshot खींचो, उसके ऊपर आप labeling करो कि this is the error that you are talking about. Because on the whole page that you take a screenshot of, there could be multiple things that you are showing in that screenshot. You have to point the developer कि आप please ये चीज देखो out of this whole page, have your attention here. Okay, effect versions is again you reported this defect and then you have to do a complete root cause analysis कि ये वाला डिफेक्ट जो है ये कौन कौन से और डिफरेंट वर्जन्स को एप्लीकेशन के हैम्पर कर रहा है. ठीक है, दिस इज मोस्टली यूज्ड, this effect versions is mostly used in desktop applications, like if you're working, if you're testing Microsoft Office, if you're testing Photoshop, उसके अंदर you have different older versions also available. तो आपको जब डिफेक्ट यहाँ पर एक वर्जन पे मिला, वर्जन 10 पे मिला फॉर एग्जांपल ऑफ एडोबी फोटोशॉप, तो आप एडोबी फोटोशॉप 9 भी इंस्टॉल करोगे अपने सिस्टम पे, पहले उस पे भी टेस्ट करोगे, उसको अनइंस्टॉल करोगे, फिर यू विल इंस्टॉल एडोबी फोटोशॉप 8 एंड सो ऑन. यू विल गो बैक अंटिल यू फाइंड कि अच्छा 7 तक हो रहा था, 6 पे नहीं हो रहा है. सो in that case you have to mention ki what are the different affected versions that are getting hampered because of this particular defect. Again, this is a due date that you can specify or the developer will put in. Normally you will not use this कि ये defect कब तक हमको fix करके मिलना चाहिए. It should you never use it. अच्छा, this is a interesting thing. So issued linked issues. What can happen is that you reported one defect. That one defect is blocking or it is affecting or it is related to other defects that you have already reported or any of your friends have reported in the project. तो उस केस के अंदर you use this particular ये field. So your issue blocks is blocked by it is a clone, it duplicates, it relates to. So when you say it relates to, and then when you go in here, you will get all the different defects that you have in your application. So you can say कि मेरा ये वाला defect it relates to this particular defect. So there would be a link that would be created, which would help the developer understand and fix this issue quickly. जहां आपके पास में 4-5 डिफेक्ट हैं एक टाइप के, आप लिंक कर दो सारे के सारे. इफ यू वांट टू असाइन इट, इफ यू नो कि क्या कौन सा डेवलपर है जो इसको फिक्स करने वाला है, यू कैन गो इन and assign it directly to that developer, or you can leave this field unassigned and the development team will take care of it. If you have epics created in your project, you can link this defect to that epic. So epic से ये linking से ये होगा कि what you're doing is you're creating a mapping here again, traceability thing. आप बता रहे हो कि ये वाला defect is linked to this particular epic जो इस user story के अंदर fall करता है. Okay, I see we have also created these different sections. Preconditions का अलग बना दिया, actual का अलग, expected का अलग. So what we have done here, you can use these columns to mention your actual precondition, expected result in these fields itself. So what I was saying na ki Jira is highly configurable. This is an example of that. So I can put it here. Attachment URL is actually not needed. URL would be required when you are posting, when you're taking a screenshot and posting it on some other platform. Google Drive पे डाल दिया कहीं पर और डाल दिया, then that in that case you would need a URL. Else it is always good to put a attachment directly in the defect itself. Let me remove these conditions. Okay, so what we have done is we have provided all the required information on this particular defect, and once you are satisfied, go and hit the create button. Please enter a URL. I don't. This is what is this? This is not a URL. Want to give this URL. So I created this issue, which we are going to open now and see. देखो अब this is once you have logged the issue, what happened is that you are given a unique ID QTBA15, and this is what you would see in the URL also. तो आपका ये डायरेक्ट एक URL बन गया आपके डिफेक्ट का. You have your headline here, you have your description here, you have the environment here. ये हमने जो relate किया था issue, link किया था issue, that is here. And on the right hand pane, you see that the issue has gone into to do automatically. This workflow is not the one that we were talking about. This is a changed workflow. That is the reason why you see that this defect has not moved to new. It has directly gone into to do. and then we did not assign it to anybody. So abhi unassigned mein pada hai, reporter was QAGENIC technologies, which is fine. We did not give any label. Precondition, actual result, expected result, ये सारे यहाँ पे आ गए अपन के पास में. ठीक है, we did not give any attachment URL. The epic that we linked was this one. We gave the priority as high. ठीक है, there are more fields which we did not fill while we were logging the defect, which were left blank. ठीक है, so this is how you report a defect. And अब क्या होता है, when the defect has been reported, the developer will log in from his ID. So developer will pick up this defect, he will mark it as in progress. In progress करने के बाद में जब वो fix कर लेगा, developer, he will put this defect back into in review. So when this defect is in review, इसका मतलब है that it is again in the QA's code to regress the defect. तो आप same steps जो आपने यहाँ पर report करे थे, you are going to follow the same steps on the fixed build, on the fixed code, and you are going to regress this defect. After you regress this defect, there would be two options. या तो ये वाले steps follow करके we now are seeing the photo on user2's Facebook wall, or else we will still not be able to see that photo. तो दो आपके पास में options आएंगे. एक तो कि आपका ये defect fix हो गया, आपको photo दिखनी चालू हो गई. In that case, you are going to mark this defect as done. In the case कि ये defect आपका अभी भी वैसी ही हालत में है जैसे आपने पहले report किया था, in that case it will go in progress. So whatever the case be, you have to come here on the comment section. Here you will be writing your comment. Verified that, let's assume कि अपना defect अभी ये fix हुआ है, so I am putting that comment for the fixed defect. Verified that on build 2, this defect is not happening. Now user 2 is able to see the photo on his Facebook wall. So closing the defect. Comment add करके save कर दो. आपका comment आ गया यहाँ पे, and then go into the status, mark it as done. So once you have marked this as done, तो आपका ये defect अब closed है. It is now done. It is closed. Okay, so this is a very basic workflow that I showed you on how you report a defect, track it, and close it. And then the same thing has to be followed for all the test cases that you have written for the requirements that were given by the client, for all the scenarios that you can think of. And then when you find defect, you have to come to Jira or any other defect tracking tool, report your defect here. उसको report करने के बाद में you have to track all the defects that you reported through the defect tracking tool until these defects get closed. At times what happens कि आपने defect lock कर दिया, उसके ऊपर developer को कोई question है, तो even the developer will add comments to this defect. तो आपको आके इस defect के अंदर, अपने हर defect के अंदर आकर आपको देखना है कि comment आ रहा है क्या कोई. ठीक है, comment आता है तो you have to reply back to the developer giving them more information on it. Okay, any questions here on the Jira?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, cool. Then I think we are done with today's session as well. Okay, so what I would do, guys, I want you to get your hands dirty. I will pass on the credentials for Jira to you guys. So you go in, play around with Jira, try to log defects. You can find defect. Let's take this as an assignment. Go to QAGENIC's website. You don't have test cases, do exploratory testing on QAGENIC's website. If you find any defects, come into Jira, log those defects. There are a few defects which I know that they are on QAGENIC's website. So I hope you are able to find those defects. If you're not able to find those defects, you can take up any hypothetical scenario like what we did for the Facebook thing. एक कोई भी scenario उठाओ and try logging that defect. Compose that defect, log that defect. Right?
Okay, sir.
All right then, guys, have a nice day ahead. Today we are celebrating Ashtami, so I think पूजा हो रही होगी आप लोगों के घर में.
हाँ सर. सर एक इशू भी आता है जैसे क्यूएजेनिक की मैंने